Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to do a buttonhole and then attach buttons by using your regular sewing machine. So let's get started. Be back to your machine dial here, which has got your stitches on, and it's going to be these three that you will use for your buttonhole. You'll start with D, so that will just stitch at the start of your buttonhole. Then you're going to press to A, that's going to come forward. You're going to go back to B, which is going to stitch across at the end. You're going to go to C, which will take it back, and then you're going to finish off on D again. So that's the three stitches that you're going to use to create your buttonhole. Now when you're doing buttonholes as well, it's important that your stitch length here, you move between the 0 and 1. It doesn't want to be above 1 because you need to keep it small and tight. Now as you're stitching down and you're doing your stitching, this moves along as you're sewing until you get to your marker. You've got two lines on the inside there, and that's where this stitching is going to start off from. So you're going to put your button and you're going to put that up just in front of that marker to measure how far you need to come down. Now that is coming to this marker here, but I'm going to take it to the marker in front because if I went to that one it's going to be too tight to get my button through. Now you always want to do a practice buttonhole on a piece of scrap before you go to whatever project you're working on, and I've already done that on here. So it was the first one that I literally put my button through to make sure it was going to get through okay, and it is. So I'm going to show you now how to do your buttonhole. So I'm going to put my fabric under, and whilst you're putting your fabric under, you can see it's pushing the foot, so make sure that you're actually pushing your foot forward so you're going to get your buttonhole as you want it to be. So I've got it on D first, and I'm just going to make sure that both the threads are through this foot and to the back, and I'm just going to hold that when I go down with my first stitch. I'm then going to sew that probably about 4 times, and then I'm going to put it onto A to make it forward. And like I've said, I'm wanting it to come to that marker there, and this needs to line up with those red markers there when it gets to the end of the foot. So you can see there that those 3 lines are matching up. So now I'm going to put it onto B. And I'm going to do that one about 7 or 8 times. So I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to put it onto C so the stitching goes back. And when it gets to the end, it's going to stop because it can't go any further because of the foot. So I'm going to put it back onto D, and then I'm going to sew that again quite a few times. Okay, let's just take that off. Right, then I'm going to push that through to the back. So that is one. Let me get this one. And then I've literally got 4 cottons at the back, so I've got 2 there and 2 there, and I'm simply going to get that, and I'm just going to tie that in a knot, and I'm simply going to cut that off. Ignore that. So now I'm going to get my unpicker, I'm going to put it in at the end, and then I'm just going to take my scissors in. Where I've got my buttonhole. Fetch my button. And that would be the button on the buttonhole. So I'm going to show you now, guys, how to stitch your button on with your regular machine. So when you're sewing a button on, what you need to do is, you've got this lever here, which brings your teeth these teeth up, and this is what's going like that, taking your fabric underneath your foot. So when you're sewing a button on, you do not want that. You've got to drop that so that you've got no motion here. It's simply going to go from side to side doing your zigzag to sew your buttons in place, and then when you finish sewing your buttons on, put your teeth back up to get your fabric going through. So this is the little foot that you use for holding your buttons in position. So it's like that where it comes and goes under, but this blue bit goes to the front. You've got your bar that attaches it to the part on the machine to keep that in place. So let me get that on. There we go, so that's now attached. So what I'm going to do now then, I'm going to put the fabric underneath. I'm going to put the button, it's got 2 holes with this, 2 holes there. So you can just see 1, 2. And that's going to fit underneath. And where this blue is, your holes want to be in between there. I'm going to put a needle underneath the foot on top of the button, like so, and that's going to give it a little tiny bit of room with the cotton. Now what you need to do at this point is you need to go to your dial and select the zigzag that's going to be the right size for the button, and you can see there that that's going in the holes perfectly. So I'm just going to start pull that away, and then I'm going to take the needle out, and then you've got your button. Now what you need to do then is simply get your cottons, put them in a needle, put them through the hole, take them to the back, and then just tie them off at the back. Now if you're wanting to do a button that's got like a shank back, and what a shank back is, it's like if you've got, let's say, a coat and you want it your button loose, so your cotton's wrapped around the back to give it extra movement. What you're going to do then is put your button underneath your foot, and then you're going to get a toothpick and literally put that down the centre of the button. Now I'm just going to see whether I've got that wide enough. The button's a little bit to the back, so let me just try that. 1, 2. So I'm going to do this by hand because I don't want that stick slipping. So you can just see there that it's going to be looser. Because I've got the toothpick there. So I'm now going to pull that away, cut that, and then what I'm going to take the toothpick away, pull the button up. I'm going to just put these 2 threads through the button underneath so I can wrap them round. I'm going to put it through the opposite side. So I'm not going through the fabric, I'm just simply putting it underneath the button at this point. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put those 2 pieces of cottons together, pull the button on, and I'm wrapping this round to make the shank at the back. So I've just kept wrapping the cotton round to make that, so it's got a shank on the back. Then I'm going to thread these cottons again to push to the back of the fabric. That's one. So I'm going to push that, go to the centre of the button and push it through to the back of the fabric. Let's do the same with the other thread. Pull that through to the back, like so. I'm going to tie these together to form a knot. pull that tight, and then I'm going to cut the excess off. So that's how it look on the inside, and then I've got my button with the shank on the back. Now if you've got a button which has got 4 holes in, so I've got 4 holes in that one, you're going to place, now you can either stitch it across, either way you want, or you can cross it over. Now I'm just going to stitch it across. So once again, you need to go slowly by hand and get the correct width for your buttonholes. So I've just had to come in one size on the zigzag. Let's just make sure, yeah. Move it forward to the other 2, and then I'm just going to take that in once to make sure it's lined up again. Just get that there, let's have a look. Yeah. I'm going to pull that away again. And once again, I'm going to thread these cottons. And where that's coming up, I'm going to take it in the opposite hole, or should I say take it down the opposite hole, pull that through to the back. I'm going to get the other one, do exactly the same. Take that into the opposite hole, pull it through to the back. And then once again, I'm going to tie the cottons off at the back into a knot, because it'll be easier if they're shorter. Pulling it through once. Pulling it through twice. Getting your excess cottons and cutting them off. So I've got that on the inside, and then I've got my button stitched on straight across, but like I say, you can crisscross it if you want. So that's 2 other styles of buttons that you can sew on by your machine. So that's how you do your buttonholes and attach your button, guys, on your machine. Now, when you are doing buttonholes, make sure you've got interfacing on the side that the buttonholes are going to be on, because it's going to give it some structure and stability to it. When you are doing your buttonhole, your first buttonhole after you've measured it, always do your first 1 or maybe 2 on scraps of fabric to make sure you've got the same width. Once you've opened it and your button goes through, then do it on your garment, because if you do it straight on your garment without doing any testers, you can get it so wrong. So always do that, because if you go straight to your garment without doing a tester piece and you've not got your knots right, or you've put one too many or one too less, it's either going to be too big or it's going to be too small. So always do it on a scrap, put your either scissors or your unpicker through it, open it up and put your button through to make sure that that's the perfect size for what you want. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys, and it's been useful for you. Thanks for watching again. Take care and see you soon. Bye for now.